Welcome on in to our first live edition of Nate Hit the Foul Pole. I'm your co-host Matthew Pine, along with my other co-host Zach Goodman. Zach, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Looks like baseball is going to be back sooner than later, so that's pretty good news. And it's going to be a different format, obviously, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that today. But I'm obviously pretty excited about that. NASCAR is coming back soon, so that probably spells good things for baseball. I mean, that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely encouraging. We also saw that the umpires are going to be getting paid for the 2020 season. 30% pay cut, but you know what? It's progress, and we'll see where it leads. How are you handling the quarantine so far, Zach?
I mean, it's probably just about what everyone else is, just sitting around doing nothing. And, obviously, I've been watching a lot of film for the NFL draft that was last week. And now that we don't have that, there's not really much to do. But, there's not much Orioles news coming out. There's not much of anything coming out. So, just sitting around waiting for sports to return, I would say.
You been watching any Netflix or any movies or anything?
Yeah, I'm in season 3 of Ozark right now, which I think is what everyone's watching in quarantine. But it's a pretty good show. Not one of my favorites, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, Ozark's good. I haven't seen the new season yet, but I am looking forward to it.
I know, Matt, you have a movie rating Twitter thread going on. You've got like 100 movies in there right now.
And, something like that.
In quarantine, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And I'm doing a rating system, and I've been watching a lot of good movies, so it's been kind of difficult for me to be too harsh on these. But two of the Coen Brothers movies I'm not a big fan of, but I like some of their other stuff, so kind of hit or miss for me.
I haven't seen them. Yeah, you gotta. Have you seen A Bronx Tale yet, Matt? Because I've been telling you to watch that for a while.
That is next on my list.
I saw Paul Valley talking about it today, so yeah, he agrees it's good. And I think
I'm going to be watching that probably tonight.
Sounds good. I can't wait to see your tweet.
I'm going to say 6.5 out of 10, but we'll see what happens.
No, it's better than that. I'm going to go with like 8.5.
Okay. All right.
That's pretty good.
We shall see. So diving into a little bit of baseball news, and we wanted to start off a little bit on a sour note, unfortunate note. Trey Mancini announced the other day that he is dealing with stage 3 colon cancer. We kind of already knew this, but it wasn't really like the details weren't all out there necessarily. And it was, reported that he's probably going to miss the whole season, whenever that is. And a lot of the national beat writers were talking about this as well. Just really sad news. And we just hope for a speedy recovery for him.
Yeah, I mean, if it's obviously terrible news, but the good news for Trey is that he's probably not going to miss all that much. I mean, even if, he does miss 100 games, if we do have a 100-game season this year, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I think he's going to be, 2021, hopefully done his chemo treatments and comes back healthy and ready to go, and that's going to be great. I think Trey's a really young guy. We talked about this before. Like, he's got all the support in the world from Baltimore fans and everyone. So, his dad had it actually, which is something I did not know. So, he's got as much information on it, and he's a young, healthy guy. I think he's going to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, and another reminder that 2020 is the worst year that we've had.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about, the effect on the Orioles, and I think that's kind of takes a backseat here. I mean, Trey, obviously the best player for the Orioles, but it's not something we really have to look at right now because, it's more about Trey himself and him getting better and his life at the current moment. So, Trey's a great player and does a lot of great stuff, but, right now that should take a backseat and just hopefully gets healthy soon.
Yeah, and I saw Kristen Hudak tweet out the official Trey Mancini hashtag. It's fight, but it's spelled with the 16. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that.
So that's kind of cool. I like that. It's good.
Kind of unique.
I mean, Trey's. I saw him the other day on the conference call he had with Mike Elias and to the beat reporters, and he looked really good. So that's good news. I think he has 6 months of chemo, so it's going to take a toll on him. I think it will take time for him to build back up the strength that he's going to need to play baseball again. But, I mean, you've seen a lot of these guys in the past. I mean, guys like Chad Bettis who, had cancer and made it back to the majors. And there's a lot of these situations, and it's really unfortunate. But, I think that Trey's going to come back better, and he'll probably come back even stronger and probably a better player than he was before.
Yeah, you mentioned Chad Bettis, Jameson Tyone also dealt with it.
Yeah.
So at least there's people in the MLB currently that he can reach out to and kind of understand more of the process and how he can get to a speedy recovery. So that's good news.
Yeah, I'm sure the MLB Players Association, everyone involved in that, is doing a great job supporting him as well and everything like that. And I'm sure Baltimore, Peter Angelos, Mike Elias, they're all offering their support, so that's great. And I think Trey, it doesn't matter. I think we should look at this as far as it doesn't matter for the Orioles' perspective. It's all about Trey, getting back to where he was and getting healthy, and hopefully coming back in 2021 stronger. That'd be great.
So moving on to a little bit of a lighter note, as Rob Manfred yet again spews his information out, and just to see, kind of gauge the public's interest, he said, the other day that said, well, maybe we could have 3 divisions, 10 teams each, kind of be more regional. I don't know if you have the divisions pulled up, Zach, but we could just kind of go through those.
Yeah, I'll run through them real fast. So there's going to be an east, a central, and a west. So let me run through those real quick. I lost him here. 1 second.
So,
but yeah, so there's going to be 10 teams in each. And, I think at this point, Rob Manfred's just kind of spitballing and just trying to figure out, the best way to do this. And like you said, he's gauging fan interest. But so we're going to have in the East Division, the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, the Orioles, the Nationals, the Phillies, the Pirates, the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Marlins. As far as that goes for the Orioles, I mean, I think the Yankees are going to, run away with this division. But as far as it goes for the Orioles, I mean, we get to play the Marlins and the Blue Jays and the Pirates, all teams that are not going to win many games. So, I mean, that's pretty good for us, I guess. Maybe even Boston, could be a pretty weak team this year. So that's looking pretty good. We go to the Central, and we've got the Cubs, the White Sox, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Royals, the Reds, the Indians, the Twins, the Braves, and the Tigers. So not really sure how the Braves made it into the Central here. And then we got the West, which has the Dodgers, the Angels, the Giants, the Astros, the Rangers, the Mariners, the Diamondbacks, the A's, the Rockies, and the Padres. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how some of these teams fit into the certain divisions. Like, I'm not sure how the Rangers, the Astros made it into the West, but I guess Rob Manfred's drunk again, like you said, and he's just throwing ideas out there.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody on Twitter, it might have been our friend Jordan Katz, who said, I can already see, some of these good teams complaining when the Orioles beat them, and I will thoroughly enjoy that if that's the case. But, I mean, as we've seen since really the beginning of April, like, he's just spitballing, see what sticks, sees what doesn't stick. Not a whole lot sticking yet, but it'll be interesting to see, especially if it's a 81-game season and you're only playing teams within that division, how that shakes out. I mean, it might get a little old seeing the same teams over and over again, but we're just going to have to deal with it. So
I think the travel part of this is the best part of this. I mean, just being that, if you're in Florida and you play the Rays, then you can just travel, not that far, an hour or two to play the Marlins. And that's great. I mean, if you're in Philly, you can travel a couple hours to New York or Boston or Baltimore, or wherever. So it's just, it's really good travel wise. I think they thought that through really well. And, I mean, you don't have the Orioles going to LA or something like that, where it's going to be a long way. I mean, that's just, if we're looking at the player safety, this is probably about the best thing you can do. And I know they said that this will not include, basically putting up the players in a dome, and keeping them away from their families, like the past, 10 or so plans they've came up with. So this is probably going to be pretty close to what they come out with. And, like I said, NASCAR's coming back already. So sports are starting to see the no fan, come around and everything. So, I think this will be pretty close to what's going to happen.
Yeah, our first comment here, my boy Vasilios saying, "What's up, boys?" Shout out to Vasilios. Welcome to our live show. Vasilios, what do you think? Projection, say 81 games. How many games do you think the Orioles are going to win? I'm looking for that in the chat box as we continue. So, next piece of news: the Orioles have made yet another international signing.
Yeah,
that's exciting news.
This is great. I mean, this one's not it's not a top guy. It's not like, one or two. It's not a Jason Dominguez kind of guy or something like that. But this is a really good signing. It's Michael Hernandez. He's a shortstop. He's a really big kid. He's 6'3", and he's probably going to get a lot bigger. I mean, he's not overall heavy, but he's built. He's drawn comparisons body-wise to Alex Rodriguez and Carlos Correa, and this kid looks really good. I'm very excited about him. I think obviously international prospects 99% of the time don't work out, but if you look at the video of this kid right here, I mean, just a really nice swing. He's big. He shows a lot of pop. They project him to stay at shortstop, which is really good. And obviously it's a positional need for the Orioles. We totally lack middle infielders. So, I'm pretty excited about him.
Yeah. I mean, just look at his load. He seems like he uses his legs pretty well. That'll definitely translate. And the kid's already 6'3". He's only 16. So, exciting stuff
right there. He's right there taking a breaking ball to right field. So that's pretty impressive. Any young player, you want to see them, take a down and away pitch to right field. That's always a good swing. So,
I think I think we saw him in Pipeline, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He was 29 in Pipeline. And then BA, I don't believe has him in their top 30, but they do have the other Orioles top prospect that's coming into the Orioles organization in Basayo, who we talked about last week. But Hernandez is arguably, in my opinion, a better prospect than Basayo just because of his, positional versatility, being able to play up the middle. And Basayo's a catcher. He was, more of a first baseman, like we talked about. So this is really exciting. And, it just shows that Elias is, totally doing what he says he was going to do, which is great.
Yeah, I think by my count, it's basically 3 guys in the top 50 for the upcoming sign period. That's really good news.
But that's what it looks like. And I don't think we signed any last year.
No, not that I'm aware of. So
right, yeah. We did sign Luis Ortiz, the second Luis Ortiz, to come into the Orioles organization, and he is already our number 30 prospect, I believe. So that's really good news right there. That he's already a top 30 prospect for us. And then, if you count in Basayo and Hernandez, they could be even top 15 prospects for us because we do lack that versatility up the middle.
Got some more comments rolling in. Our good buddy Justin says he can't believe we get to watch the best Orioles podcast. What is life right now, Justin?
It's just what we do, Justin. That's all I got.
Just for you, buddy. My friend Mark Burnside misses baseball.
Vasilio says 30 to 35 games, and I think he's about right.
Trying to do the math on that.
Yeah.
Might be less because if you basically put that over a full season, that's 60 to 70 games that they would win.
I mean,
so that might be a little generous. We'll see.
It might be, and we are going to go up against some great pitchers in this, in this league. With even a team like Philly is not going to win that many games, they get Aaron Nola against us. So. Yeah, we're going to struggle to hit guys like that. So, Yankees obviously be playing anyway, but have a great rotation. The Red Sox as well. So, I think we'll struggle a little bit, but I do like, the way they're doing this in the sense that, like I said, the travel before, but I don't know how much games we're going to win. It's probably not going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, hopefully the less the better if we're getting Kumar Rocker. I know there's been some talk about next year's draft, how it's going to work out, if it's just going to be the same order that it was this year, or if if we actually have a season, if it'll be based off that. It'll be interesting to see. One thing I did want to touch on before we move on to our last topic was with Michael Hernandez, the international signing. I don't know how this is going to, with COVID, I don't really know how this is going to impact development and coming stateside, especially. So last year's class, if they're eligible now to come stateside, I don't know if they can, if they can't, if it hurts their development. I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah, and that goes for all minor league players, not just the guys playing in the DSL or the GCL. But I mean, this is definitely worrisome. And we're going to talk about Adley Rutschman in a few minutes here, but guys like that, and some of our top prospects that really need just that few finishing touches to get to the major leagues are going to be really affected by this. And even if there isn't a great 162 game major league season, which there probably won't be, a developmental league might take the place of the minor leagues, which will be interesting. And you may see guys like, Ryan Mountcastle, who weren't going to originally make the team now because they don't want to be in that, developmental league.
Yeah, I mean, where you see the NBA doing it with the G League. So,
yeah.
We'll see if other leagues take their lead, and should be interesting to watch out for in 2020.
Yeah, but Matt, I just want to ask you real quick,
who
would you really be worried about if we didn't have a minor league season? Is there any prospect in mind that you'd be really worried about missing an entire season?
Just off the top of my head, maybe some of the pitchers, maybe somebody like a Cody Sedlock.
Yeah,
who
I agree with that.
Showed a lot of progress in 2019. He was coming off injuries, nothing but injuries, and he finally started to show, this guy's back in his groove. He's got his fastball back. For him not to continue his development, I think would be really, really bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Sedlock's a guy who I actually think had a chance to crack the rotation this year. I mean, he definitely does. I mean, he's, almost there. He's like Ryan Mountcastle, where he just needs that couple finishing touches, on a few of his pitches or whatever, to get to the major leagues. And I think he's very close. But yeah, Sedlock's a great choice. I was thinking somewhere along the lines of like a Rylan Bannon, a guy who, is kind of stuck right now in between AAA and the major leagues. Kind of maybe, this could push him, if he doesn't get his proper development, into more of a 4A role than, starting second baseman or even a backup. So, guys like that, I think, who need to prove themselves, who didn't have a great 2019, are really going to miss this. It's not a great situation, but it's what's got to happen. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. I'm sure the Orioles are impacted maybe more than almost any organization, just in terms of development and trying to get these guys going and moving up the list here in 2020, the prospect list. We have Justin checking in yet again, saying, honestly, I'm worried about anyone not named Adley Rutschman. They need time to develop, and this hurts them. I agree, Justin.
Agreed.
And that's our perfect segue to our final topic of the podcast, 01 Adley Rutschman. We wanted to touch on, a little bit of his 2019 season and what he's going to look like in 2020 if we do have a minor league season. And Zach, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, so Adley, obviously we all know everything about Adley. I mean, he's, the first overall pick. If you're watching this podcast, you get it. He's the best player in college baseball and, who knows how long. Best prospect since Bryce Harper is what they've said. I mean, this kid is really, really good. His development, it's on the right track, I think, right now. And I think he was going to go to Frederick to start off the season. And we're going to talk a little bit about, his ETA and where we think he'll, move up through the ranks these next few years. But Adley is really talented, so I'm not too worried about how it's going to affect his development. Obviously, Matt showing him hitting some bombs at Camden Yards right here, which is last summer after he got drafted. But guys like Adley, they're so close to the majors, and he's got so much talent that I do worry a little bit about how this COVID situation will affect his development for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look at some of his 2019 numbers. They're not uber, impressive. He did hit a couple bombs, and he did have a pretty good on base percentage, towards the end of the season, which is great. But he's another guy that I was looking for to really take the next step. And obviously coming in the number 1 overall draft pick, you have pretty high expectations. But
right, for sure.
He's also a guy that I don't really worry about just because he already has all the tools. He doesn't need to develop a whole lot. But I just want to see him on the field,
Do his spring training stats worry you? He went 1-9.
No, not necessarily. I don't really look at spring training stats, and I would say it doesn't. But in the same token, you want him to perform, and you want to see, them live up to their draft status. Yeah. I'd be more interested to see how hot he came out of the gate more than his spring training stats. If he came up to Frederick and started tearing the cover off the ball, I would have no worries whatsoever. But I don't know. I just hope he gets, the chance this season. And we were even talking a little bit offline, what if they expand major league rosters? What if he makes the Orioles this year?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think the Orioles are going to have to consider. And let's just be clear. Matt nor I want this to happen, obviously, and I don't think anyone should want this to happen because service time comes into account. But if Adley makes the team this year, that would really hurt his development. I mean, it would really hurt his development. He would probably not get that many at bats. He'd sit behind Severino and Cisco and whoever else would be on the roster at catcher. He might get a few defensive innings, not too many at bats. You want him in Frederick right now. Like that is exactly where you want him. Justin's talking about his swing. Yeah, it's fantastic. I think that you need him in Frederick, and if the expanded rosters force them to bring up Adley, that's going to really kill him. The expanded rosters, they're talking 33 to 35 players, which opens up a number of possibilities for the Orioles. I mean, you look at a guy like Yusniel Diaz, who again just needs those finishing touches to get there. Ryan Mountcastle too. Maybe even a guy like Rylan Bannon, who I said before, could make the team out of whatever spring training looks like soon here. I think that Adley and his development will really be questioned.
So say he doesn't make the team this year, say, that doesn't make sense because he's going to gain that service time. What do we think of an ETA in terms of Adley's, pro debut?
I would think 2021. I almost see it as it has to be 2021. I know you were saying the other day that, you want him up when we're good. And yeah, I get that. But I think the Orioles hate leaving guys who are major league ready in the minors. And I think we saw that with Kevin Gausman a few years ago, just constantly up and down in the early part of his career and, never really stuck with the team. But they got him up, they got him some innings, and he struggled really badly to start off. But I think Gausman's a good example of what they're going to do with Adley, another top prospect, a top 15 guy, I believe. And same with Bundy, too. They got him up in 2012, just a few years after he was drafted. And, I think that 2021 looks about right for him. As to what I think he'll do in 2021, probably not much. He's probably going to, sit behind Severino, but 2022 maybe takes on that starting role and becomes, the starting catcher. So that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I think 2022 is actually possible. I mean, if he doesn't get like a full year, doesn't even get a half a year this year, I mean, you're looking probably at 2022 just to have him go through Frederick and Bowie and maybe even Norfolk. And then, I would expect him to crack the opening day lineup 2022 at the very latest. We have a question in here from Basilios. He says, what position would Mountcastle play? Would you just stick him at DH? What do you think, Zach?
That's a good question. But as far as this year goes, I think DH is probably going to be where he plays least. I would say that he probably doesn't play there very often because when you're putting a guy like, Mountcastle at DH when he's only 23 years old, it's just kind of a killer for confidence, I would say. I think guys like to be put out in the field. I think some of them take a lot of pride in their defense. So I think left field maybe is where you'll see him most. You may even see him at third base a little bit because we don't have a solidified third baseman, and he'll be terrible there. I mean, he'll be awful, but I think they'll at least experiment with it. And then obviously maybe at first base, especially if Trey's not playing this year, you'll see more of Mountcastle at first base.
Yeah, guys, and if we have any more questions, now is the time to get them in before we wrap up the show. In terms of Mountcastle, I think probably best option is DH, but I do kind of want to see him in left field just because I watched him in left field in Norfolk. Late last season, he was making plays. Like, he didn't look lost out there. It's just one of those scenarios where you just got to kind of stick him out there. You have nothing to lose. His throwing arm looked fine to me. Like, that's like his one big knock as a prospect, that he has a weak throwing arm, but in left field, it looked totally fine. So I do want to see him maybe have some versatility. If he settles in at first base or DH, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I think left field is kind of one of those places that anyone can play. I think there is 99% of the major league players, on any roster can play left field because it's really not that difficult. I mean, as long as you know how to read a fly ball, which all of these guys have known how to do since they were kids. I mean, it's not very difficult. Trey picked it up a few years ago, being an all-time first baseman. He picked it up in, a month in spring training and started being, the starting left fielder. So it really isn't something that's that difficult to pick up. I think Mountcastle has done it pretty well. And like you said, he made some great plays last year. And yeah, I even saw him, gun a guy down at second base last year. I think he gunned a guy at home. So obviously not going to be your most competent left fielder. He's not going to be Ricky Henderson out there or something, but I think it'll be serviceable. And obviously if the bat plays like we think it will, then he'll be more than that.
Yeah, so we just got a couple more comments coming in. Justin apparently couldn't hear us talk because all he was doing was drooling over the video of Adley Rutschman. Justin, I get it.
I don't blame him, honestly. I don't blame him.
We got a little pray for Trey coming in from Bernie. Obviously, yes, that is exactly what the entire baseball community should be feeling right now.
Yeah.
Literally, like we mentioned earlier, it couldn't happen to a nicer person, nicer human being.
I just want to take a minute, though, to call out the rest of the baseball community, because I've seen on so much on Twitter for the past few days, the same guys, Yankees and Red Sox fans who were calling Trey Mancini trash, a year ago, watching him beat up their teams and calling him, all the terrible things you can call a person on Twitter, all the, anything they want. And now they're going, oh, we love you. And I'm like, how sincere is this? I mean, yeah, I appreciate the people are reaching out, but if you've already called them trash a couple times on Twitter, then I don't know if you should be saying that.
Yeah, and I think if you ask those people again, they would, take that back. Obviously,
maybe getting a little bit emotional.
Something you say when you're in the moment, or you're a 12-year-old on Twitter. That could be the case
too. That's true.
But yeah, I'm going to post this here. This is the official hashtag that Kristen Hudak, the PR director of the Orioles, was using, with Trey's number 16 is in the name there for fight. So pretty unique, actually, and it's something that could stick.
I just want to comment on what you're showing right now with Mancini hitting that walk-off home run against the Pirates. That is probably my favorite Orioles game in the past 10 years, at least one of them. It's one of my favorites. That game proved to me that Trey Mancini belonged. Obviously comes in, hits a ninth inning tying home run, and then he's standing out there in the on-deck circle in the 11th inning with Adam Jones. Adams telling him, how to hit a walk-off home run. Then he goes and does it. That was one of my favorite games in the past 10 years. That was an exceptional game, and just to see like everyone rally around him was fantastic. It was just a fun game.
One last comment before we get out of here from Vasilios. He said, we've had some great content of Mo Gaba talking about Trey on WBAL, which is who Vasilios works for. Pretty heart-wrenching stuff, wholesome content. I know for a fact, and I've heard this from many people, that Trey Mancini has hung out with Mo Gaba many, many times. And I believe it was the All-Star game last year or 2 years ago in D.C. that during the off day, he literally just spent it with Mo Gaba. Like, he's such a good human being, and like they can relate to each other now with the cancer diagnosis. And it's really special. It's really two special figures in Baltimore. And it's two figures that people can rally around.
Yeah, and the Ravens have done great things for Mo Gaba in the past. They let him announce, I think it was the 4th-round draft pick last year with Ben Powers. It was. So Mo Gaba's become a beloved Baltimore personality here after being on 105.7, and he's been a caller on there. And the Orioles and both the Ravens and the Orioles have rallied around him now. And that just proves though how great of a guy Trey is. I know when we had Eric from Barstool on here a few weeks ago, he was just saying that Trey's like the best person you could ever know. And you hate to see it happen to someone like this. Like it's a guy that everyone loves, and you don't expect to see your heroes, have something happen like this to them. And I know, Ryan Mountcastle was saying that on 105.7 the other day that, you don't expect a guy like this to have this happen to him. And it's just so unfortunate for a leader like this to have this happen.
Absolutely. And, Trey, the whole Baltimore community is behind you, and definitely well wishes and prayers up to you.
Yeah. For sure. Maybe we can get him on after after everything blows over here.
Well, that would be sick.
That would be nice.
Have to make
Justin
a few.
Said sports equal community. That is very true.
Very true. We agree, Justin, wholeheartedly. Anything else before we get out of here, Zach?
That's about it for me. Just hoping that Rob Manfred throws some more spitballs at us, and let's see what kind of crazy idea he comes up with next.
Yep. And as always, we appreciate you guys joining us. If you're on the live broadcast, if you don't mind going ahead and hitting that subscribe button to our YouTube channel, that would be really big for us, as we're going to probably be doing live shows every week now, depending on availability and stuff. So Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're on the audio, you probably are on iTunes. But if you're on YouTube, we're on iTunes, we're on SoundCloud, we're on Spotify, and Google Podcasts, as you can always tune in. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you guys next week.